The unstoppable force, Noel Noah, goes one-on-one against the smartest man in creation, Snuffy. The ultimate showdown between the best two players in the entirety of the show. As you see, in the realm of Blue Lock, few can compare to the master strikers. Few players can have the claim to the throne of football as these five beasts. But even among them, two soar very high, crushing the competition, even between the best of the best. Noah versus Snuffy, the matchup that will determine who is the best in the world, who reigns on the throne of football, but also, and honestly, this is the beauty of Blue Lock, as this face-off is the ultimate showdown between the best genius and the best talented learner. And so, in today's video, we are going to look at each player's stats, abilities, and explore their best feats, to determine not only who is the best of the two, but who is the real dominator of football in the world of Blue Lock. Noel Noah, the player ranked by FIFA the best in the world. But more importantly to him, Noah is the definition of a striker, a genius player with weapons and abilities that solely exist for him to dominate, for him to score, and for him to be the ultimate spear in the entirety of Blue Lock. However, and before we jump into the weapons that make him what he is, first we gotta talk about his physical stats. And for Noah, it's honestly just absurd how insanely broken his physicality is. I mean, in this regard, he can even rival Chris Prince, the guy who has a perfect score in every area. And truth be told, we have never seen Noah actually beat Prince in terms of physicality, but by engaging him in a certain way, he was able to rival him and put a stop to Prince. And so we can say in terms of physicality, he should be right below Chris Prince, and I don't really think the difference is that big, which if you think about it, being comparable to a perfect score should tell you everything you need to know about Noah's physicality. His raw power and strength is through the roof. His endurance is obviously exceptional, and he is pretty tall and muscular, so jumping is definitely off the charts as well. And finally, his speed is also just scary. He is no Loki, but again, he was able to keep him at bay, which honestly is just a head scratcher, because we know him and Prince are nowhere near Loki's speed. Yet for some reason he was able to stop Loki, and this actually makes me theorize that Loki's speed will have a condition, like the acceleration window or shutting down his routes, that Noah was able to exploit in order to stop the French genius. However, as you can tell, this in of itself is actually an ability of his. And so, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for us to talk about his weapons. And before we talk about this ability that allowed Noah to keep up with Loki and Prince, I actually want to talk about his strongest, or at least stated to be his strongest weapon, which is of course his ambidexterity. Noah's ability to use both sides of his body with 100% efficiency is probably one of the simplest yet one of the most effective weapons in all of Blue Lock. You see, while it might not seem that threatening at first, if you think about it, unlike Prince or Loki, Noah is capable of using his insane physicality on both sides without any drawbacks. This means his options are always wide open, and he is equally dangerous from any side and in whatever position he finds himself in. He can shoot, pass, dribble, and engage other players on both sides with no issue while giving his 100%, which makes reading him or even countering him extremely hard. And for a striker, this is very crucial for consistency. Now, to be honest, ambidexterity isn't his strongest weapon because of its nature. It is insanely broken because Noah specifically has it. And I mean, I've already spoken of it, but due to his insane physicality, this ambidexterity is rather scary, because engaging a very strong player who has no weakness to his physicality is borderline near impossible. However, another weapon that actually makes it even scarier is his broken shooting ability, with what's probably the strongest shot we have seen in the show, and with his superior physicality that allows him to force said shot through most walls. Noah really hits like a truck. Oh wait, no, he actually hits like two trucks, because due to his ambidexterity, he can throw the strongest shot with both legs. I mean, what's better than a cannon for a shot? Well, two cannons. Now, the fact that his options are always wide open due to his ambidexterity, and with his shot that is strong and very hard to defend against, it really should tell you everything onto why he has the highest success rate when it comes to converting opportunities into goals. I mean, think about it for a second with with me. A lot of players like Baro, Kaiser and Rain have insane success rates due to their shooting ability, which I doubt they can compare to Noah here. Maybe only Kaiser with his impact, but when you consider that Noah can shoot with both legs while keeping the same effectiveness and the same threat level, it becomes really clear to understand why it is very hard to defend against this beast, and why I am calling him the unstoppable force. But also this should highlight why Noah is untouched in this regard. Like we've never seen a player with the same threat level as this monster. And I mean that's the whole point of his character in the show, but still I really do not see anyone being this scary in front of the net, and really makes him live up to the hype of being the best striker. I mean plain and simple, he is just the best at finishing the job. However, finishing the job often requires more than just a great shot and the ability to force your way through with pure physicality. I mean Baro learned this the hard way in the second selection. As you see, the striker needs a tangible and a reproducible way to get himself into position so his scoring chances are high. And usually this is done through either dribbling or perfect positioning. And for some reason again, Noah actually is great at both. As you see, much like Ren, Noah is the complete package when it comes to being a striker. He can dribble, position himself, engage players physically, and do it all. But first, let's talk about his dribbling ability, which is the opposite of every dribbling ability we've seen thus far, I think. Maybe only Chigiri is comparable to him, because instead of using creativity to perform dribbling moves like Bajra or Levi, or even counter his opponents like Sai and Hiyori do, Noah's dribbling is all about going the most efficient and logical route on the field, relying on his superior vision to snipe the best route before anyone, and then his superior physicality to force his way through, either with brute force or speed. And I know by me describing it this way, it makes his dribbling somewhat easy to read and deal with, especially for players with either insane physicality, speed, or even perception, seeing it is pretty much the most logical route. However, and to be honest, good luck trying to stop the truck. I mean, we've seen him in the Barsha game, how their defense and even their master Levi try and failed miserably at that, which is in part due to how much his ambidexterity opens his options, but also by being faster at reading and analyzing, and then faster to act. Noah becomes a machine that doesn't miss a beat. Truly, his dribbling is clockwork that goes from point A to B, with the least wasted time and motion, as well as taking the shortest and most efficient route. And you can already just tell from this that he must have an impeccable vision and field readability, which I gotta say, while he never was shown to have metavision, he was consistently able to rival metavision users with his field readability, which might sound a bit off, but we have seen both Shido and Rin capable of doing the same thing, although not to the same extent as Noah, which actually is in line with what we know, since Noah is a genius much like Rin and Shido, and unlike metavision users, his ability to read the field can't really be explained as he just does it. I feel despite the insane physicality, what makes Noah truly a genius is his ability to impeccably determine the most rational, most optimal solution to whatever situation he is in. And mind you, all of this is instantaneous. Much like Shido's instincts, Noah's actions and reactions are all instantaneous, and we have seen them be even more efficient than Kaiser and Isegi's. And when you couple this with just how much his ambidexterity opens his options, Noah's mere existence on the pitch is so threatening and often requires pretty extreme measures in order to stop. Well, on offense at least. On defense, Noah isn't as great in terms of vision. I don't mean he is bad or anything. I'm just saying that his vision isn't as good on defense as it is on offense. And I mean, again, he is a striker and this is to be expected. However, a weapon that I think Noah has and is actually applicable everywhere is his ability to logically and rationally counter the plays of his opponents. By actually analyzing every player logically, Noah has an innate ability to counter the most rational option or even options his opponents have, cutting their advancement firmly. And again, with his insane physicality and his ambidexterity, he is able to straight up render some of those options completely dead. And this is so effective, it made the ranked second best player in the world opt to move irrationally just so he can beat Noah. And even worse than that, Levi actually had no answer to Noah until Isegi intervened. And hell, through this weapon specifically, he was able to tame the wild beast Loki, despite the latter being much faster. Now, as I said before, it is stated that Noah's best weapon is his ambidexterity. But again, as I said, I really feel it is only broken at the hands of Noah, specifically due to his mentality, which is all about one saying: Rationality is king. Noah doesn't have any irrational mental blocks. He is always looking at everything logically. And because of this, Noah actually never faced a wall in his rise toward being the strongest striker that he didn't find a solution to, as all of his existence is about overcoming challenges. No. It's all about forcing his way through every obstacle with brute, unadulterated rationality. And fun fact, this is why he was so impressed by Baru, as seeing him facing his hardest challenge head on and not crumbling, and then forcing his way through with a rational option that only Baru was able to see really captivated Noah. To him, overcoming an insane obstacle and rationally forcing your way through is everything he lives for. Which, if you think about it, means that Noah will probably never get satisfied with his current level, and will forever be improving, forever be looking for the next worthy challenge. And at this point in Blue Lock, I don't even need to tell you how important this is. Not getting satisfied specifically, and having a rational mentality generally speaking. As for Noah, not only he is great in this regard, but I truly believe he has the best mentality in the show, no questions asked. And even overall, Noah truly lived up to the hype he has conjured ever since the beginning of Blue Lock, and really is the most effective and deadliest striker we've seen as of yet. But can he beat intelligence personified? Mark Snuffy, the Phoenix Man and the Master Strategist. One of the most beloved characters in this show, but also one of the best hidden gems to come out of the Neo Egoist League. If you were to ask the Blue Lock fans who is the weakest master before the Ubers game, almost everyone in the community would have said Snuffy. Fast forward to now, not only was Snuffy actually a great coach and a player, he honestly was beyond our wildest expectations. But, and you already know it, first let's start with his physicality. Snuffy is a very tall player with a great overall physicality. Not really as strong as some of the other pros like Prince, Blake or Silva, but don't you worry, he is the master strategist for a reason, and he found a way around that. But before we jump into that, let's carry on with his physicality. His speed and endurance, while being insane, are nothing really special compared to the other pros as well. However, where he really dominates is in the air. Being a very tall player, Snuffy, much like a phoenix, soars very high, presenting one of the best jumping abilities in the show. I wouldn't say he beat Silva in this regard because there was no confirmation for this, but still he has one of the best jumping abilities ever. However, where he dominates every other pro is with his abilities and weapons. And so, let's dive in. Now, there is no beating around the bush here. Snuffy's ultimate weapon is without a doubt his big brain. Which is funny because the term for him should be a genius, but we all know in Blue Lock he is a talented learner because a genius has a different meaning, and I am straying away from the subject. What's more important for us is actually that Snuffy's big brain is like none other. No one, and I mean no one, comes close to the genius of this man. Maybe only Ego, but even then the guy failed and Snuffy is succeeding. As you see, not only is he the most knowledgeable, he also is the quickest, smartest and most creative player. Facing Snuffy is like facing a man with infinite ammo. Regardless of what plan you have for his plays, Snuffy will exceed your expectations with varying, often very distinct playing designs. In these designs, Snuffy not only takes his teammates' powerful points and playing styles, but also his opponent's weak points and even mental states into account, resulting in such oppressive designs that it makes regular players on his team perform very well against geniuses. Which, much like Isigi, makes him a great leader with a natural tendency to take the team up a level. Although I gotta say, Isigi's boost is nowhere near Snuffy's. And honestly, I could just end Snuffy's section right here and it would be enough to give Noah the fight of his life. However, there is much more to the Phoenix Man. And a lot of his weapons that I will speak of mostly stem from his genius again. For example, because Snuffy doesn't have the best physicality, he learned the highest form of jiu-jitsu, attaining a black belt. Also, he can dominate his one-on-one interactions. And if you know anything about MMA or fighting in general, you would know just how deadly this martial art in close quarters interactions. And through this, Snuffy dominates the one-on-one physical altercations with no one coming even close. Not even brawlers or even physical beasts like Prince can engage him due to how much he dominates this area. Hell, he can even beat multiple players simultaneously with no issue, giving him what I can definitely say the best ball retention in the world. Not even dribblers can guard the ball the way Snuffy does. And for his recon playing style, this ball retention gives him the time he needs to determine what design to execute for any situation he is in. Which, if we think about it for a second, if you give the biggest brain in the show the time it needs, well, it's already GG's. You honestly better forfeit the game. But wait, it gets worse. Much worse. You see, analyzing the game in a split second is the job of Metavision, which not only does Snuffy has it, but he has the best Metavision we've seen thus far. Minus Cavasos because we don't know where he stands. But for the rest of the players we've seen, and I know they are all U20 players, but still he beat them and it's not even close. We have seen him outread both Kaiser and Isigi, and he made it look as if they don't even have Metavision. It honestly was a massacre. The way he was handling them, as if they were little kids on the pitch, it honestly was not funny. And speaking of Isigi, Metavision is not the only weapon he shares with Snuffy. As in the Uber's game, one of the things that really worked Isigi was how is Snuffy already positioned where the ball is about to fall, before Isigi even got a chance to scan the field. Well, in the next match, the PXG game, Isigi actually reached the conclusion that explains how Snuffy was pulling that off. Well, first by acting very rationally and having no emotions, which is something we will get to later. But secondly, and more importantly, by forcing the brain to expect what about to happen and react faster than anyone. Isigi was able to move before Ness even passed the ball, beating even the likes of Shido, who relies completely on his instincts and who was never beaten to a loose ball. Something that is very similar to what Snuffy was doing in the previous game. By the time Kaiser and Isigi went to borrow, Snuffy was already on the move to the next design. And while I truly feel Isigi's fastest piece is very limited compared to Snuffy's multi-layered thinking, it is a step in the right direction for the Demon King, which actually is a point that will play a huge role in determining the winner today. However, before we move to Snuffy's mentality, first I gotta talk about a weapon that he did not show but he obviously have, right? Which is of course the Predator Eyes. You see, he taught Barrow the Predator Eyes, and so he definitely has them. However, because in the Uber's game he was only playing to nurture his players and not really trying to score for himself, we never got to see this weapon. However, from his interaction with his deceased friend Mick, we can definitely assume that he uses the Predator Eyes. As you see, Mick told him that his goals feel as if they are forced. And this kinda reminds me of Barrow and Kaiser playing style, where they force a goal through a very tight spot, which is of course due to their Predator Eyes. And this almost confirms that Snuffy has them. And I mean, what am I even saying? We know he has them because he taught them to Barrow. And speaking of which, because he has the Predator Eyes, we can confidently assume that he has an insane shooting ability. Because as you all know, the Predator Eyes pretty much require an insane shot in order to be effective. Kaiser and Barrow aren't really scoring from that far without an insane shot, and so we can assume that Snuffy has one of the best shots as well. However, enough speculation and going back to his mentality. I'd say Snuffy has one of the best mentalities in the show. He is very logical and very rational, which is funny because it's the name of the game in today's video. It seems that in Blue Lock, in order to be the best, it's a prerequisite to have an insane rational mentality. As for Snuffy, his mentality is completely detached from his emotions. He treats football as a job and as a business he needs to do, and he gives this job everything he got. Which, if you think about it with his big brain, that's a lot. However, and even though his mentality is great, I feel Snuffy before lacked the ego, he lacked the fire that would push him to beat Noah. However, all of this changed because of one little brat called Barrow. And now with Snuffy actually regaining his ego, and much like a phoenix reigniting his flames, we finally get to see the true level of Mark Snuffy, which is rather scary if you think about it. He showed that dominant performance with his ego being completely worn out, and now it's honestly just scary to see the real Snuffy. To be honest, I am excited to see him again more than anything in the entirety of Blue Lock. Because the next time we see him play, he might be aiming to become the best in the world. Not just from a playing style perspective, but actually be labeled by FIFA themselves as the best player in the world. However, in order to do that, he has to be the immovable object and put an end to the unstoppable force. And so, can Snuffy actually beat Noah? For how this matchup would go, it's honestly not as obvious as how many people would like to say. You see, because Noah admitted before that Snuffy is overall better, and because I usually take the overall assessment in my videos, a lot of people might think it is leaning towards Snuffy. However, there is a catch to all of this. You see, Noah in that regard also said that Snuffy doesn't hold a candle to Noah when it comes to being a striker, which means in terms of just converting opportunities into goals, Snuffy really can't compete with Noah. And this is the whole thing. If you were a coach, who would you choose? A player like Noah who is simply an unstoppable force and needs to be fouled in order to be stopped? Or someone like Snuffy who would dominate the entire field and not only give you insane opportunities, but also would be insane as well in the midfield and on defense? Well, let's actually look at that. You see, despite Snuffy being so dominant in the entirety of the field, Blue Lock at the end of the day is about scoring goals. And in this regard, as I said, Noah is better. However, and again, because football is about scoring, stopping the other team from scoring also is very crucial. And in this regard, Snuffy gains a huge advantage over Noah. You see, while Noah has the label of being the best striker in the world, Snuffy's label is the crown messenger. He is a player who brings victory to any team he plays for. Victory consists not only of scoring goals, but also dominating the game and stopping the other team from scoring. And due to this, it again leans towards Snuffy. However, there is another catch that we need to account for, which is regarding their egos. Before Barrow did what he did, Snuffy's ego was dead. He just wanted to finish the dream he had with Mick, win the 5th championship and then retire. While Noah on the other hand will be consistently soaring high, which means if you are a coach you would lean towards Noah who is more consistent. Well, that's what I would say if it wasn't for again what Barrow did, as now Snuffy has finally regained his ego, and with his flame being reignited, I feel Snuffy will have the most consistent performance in the entirety of the world. And I mean, there is another angle we need to look at, which is the Isagi's angle. You see, I've said it in a lot of my videos. Isagi is going to be Snuffy, and because we know that the end goal of the entirety of the show is to make Isagi the best striker in the world, it means at some point he will defeat Noah. And I feel the ticket into doing that is none other than Snuffy, because I truly believe with his ego reignited, Snuffy is more consistent, he is more dominant, and is simply overall better, and obviously the winner of today's matchup and the man walking with a W. However, that's all I've got for you today, guys. I really hope you enjoyed the video, and until next time, thank you for watching.